Hello, my beautiful friends, my fellow space blobs, sparkly blobs, leonine blobs, whatever form you're coming into this space here today. I'm so happy you are here. We are going to be exploring an archetype, a sign that means so much to me personally, which is Leo. I am a Leo sun. And so this time of year always feels really intimate and important. And I do have that bias going into this because Leo just means so much to me at such a profound level. I think anybody who's worked deeply with Leonine energy in their lives knows that this energetic and this sign really demands learning the lessons of living through the heart. And that is a really interesting journey to take on. And of course, we all connect with Leo. Every single one of us has our own connection to this sign and to this energetic. And if you're going through a season where you're having to learn how to see life through the heart, it can really demand looking deeply at yourself, finding new intimacy with yourself, finding new compassion and kindness towards yourself, and opening toward your shadow and all your deepest parts. Leo has so many levels to it. And while we often talk about Leo as the dramatic, loud, flamboyant, must be the center of attention, energetic, that is the sun-ruled sign of the zodiac, the depths that are waiting just underneath that little candy coating and the lessons that we learn through this energetic are so powerful. So I want to get us set up for this Leo season, talk through the big energetic themes that I think are going to be really prominent for this Leo season, get us into some of the themes and the rhythms and the magical mysticism of working with Leo energy, and then of course talk through some of the transits and do a card intuitive reading at the end. So I hope you'll stick around for this very cozy Leonine chat. Like I was just mentioning, Leo is so often associated on the superficial level with this idea of stealing the spotlight and needing a lot of attention, and also on a symbolic level being connected to this idea of a singular monarch or ruler, as opposed to the opposing sign of Aquarius, which is all about the people and the collective and how we're all connected. And I think the relationship between Leo and Aquarius is really important. It's a really interesting dynamic, thinking about the individual self-expression versus how we fit into the larger collective, and then coming full circle through Aquarius, where we really truly are able to express ourselves in weird and strange ways because we've relaxed into being part of the collective. It's this infinity loop between Leo and Aquarius. But it's really important that we dig a little deeper with Leo, because it's not all just leopard print and spotlight and being a loud, annoying fire sign where, every single fire sign gets teased for being loud and wanting all of the attention, and we all know it. But Leo, for me, I know it's a very personal sign. I'm totally biased because as a Leo, I live this life. Some of my cosmic curriculum is wrapped up in working with this energy. So sometimes I have to take a little bit of a step back and really get perspective on the sign because I live it so profoundly. And I'm sure other Leos who are sitting here with me totally get that. Because one of the things that comes up in working with strong Leo energy in your chart or in your life, or when the collective is going through a strong Leo energetic, is learning the lessons of living through the heart. And that is not an easy curriculum, because what ends up happening when we're really working deeply with Leo is that we're asked time and again to stop looking at all the flashy, superficial things in order to be able to use our sight, our heart-based sight. And heart-based sight is very countercultural. We're not taught about it in our career growth, in our school systems, in anything that we're taught to value about pursuing in our lives, which is what's so funny about this sign, because on the surface, it seems like it's all about the things we're supposed to be shooting for, the acclaim and the acceptance and the glamour and the glitz, and that's what we're supposed to be aiming for. However, Leo's actually about the completely opposite lesson, which is that true leadership, true coming home to ourselves, true knowing how to navigate a life full of complexity is going to require learning how to use our heart, learning how to be courageous in this way that means being able to sit still long enough to hear ourselves and to learn to move via the heart. Not via the over-analytical mind, not via the stress systems of our body, but to really listen long enough to hear it. Leo has so many layers as well because it's the sign of the sun, it's the 5th house. This is all connected to the heart chakra in our bodies. The color green is really important with Leo. This is also a sign that's associated with childlike creativity and renewal and birth. And when I think about Leo coming right after the sign of Cancer, the energetic of the great void, the womb, the mother, the creative nurturance place where we then come into Leo season, this is where we start to express all of those gifts that we were learning in the cocoon of Cancerian wisdom, wild magic, intuition. We're now translating it and allowing it to filter through the heart and into what we're doing. And because Leo is also associated with the monarch and the leader and the one that kind of owns their individuality in the world, owns that their existence is here. I am here. I exist. This is who I am. We can only do that once we have really allowed that process to happen via the heart, via that deep sense of longing, bittersweetness. Sometimes it can be experienced in the body, that deep sense of knowing, that deep sense of quiet strength. And that is true leadership. And we're actually lacking a lot of that in our world as it stands now, because culture has been chasing the superficial levels of so many of these archetypes and energetics for the last many hundred years. And we're now at a place where so many of us feel distanced from this sense of empowerment, and we're seeing very little of it in the public sphere when it comes to this kind of quiet, listening, present strength energy that Leo represents. So it's just a really special place. I think also just something to keep in mind with Leo, it is about deep diving into ourselves. The brighter the light, the deeper the shadow. That is definitely an element that anybody who's worked with Leo energy at any significant ways in their lives knows for a fact. It takes you to deep places, even though on the surface it might be all about the beautiful gravitational force of being present here. But also, Leo really is about creative fun and self-expression. And it really is about just having kind of like the audacity to try things and show up and just really own that you are here. Like, you are here. Isn't that wild? Isn't that the wildest thing when you really sit down to think about the fact that you're sitting here, I'm sitting here, and we're in a day, like we're in a moment, and we could just get up and do something at any moment. And that can be a little overwhelming, like paralysis, but it's also really exciting. And that is, I think, something that's really important to remember about the power of this sign. So I want to talk about this particular Leo season. It's a really dynamic Leo season. We've got a Mercury retrograde happening during this Leo season. We have Chiron stationing retrograde during this Leo season. We have some very powerful full moon or moon cycles, a new and a full moon going on. It's a really beautiful place of creative recognition. And there were some really strong intuitive themes that started to speak up for me as I was sitting here preparing for this Leo season. So one of the first things that came up for me is a synthesis of our external and our internal selves. Like, where are we with that right now? Now, this is like an ongoing lifetime exploration, because as we change, we have to check back in with this. But this is a really important time to think about. You might have a way you feel inside, a way you like to express yourself, a way that you feel you are. And you may or may not be representing that on the surface for good reason, probably. It's not like we come up with an external version of ourselves for no reason at all. There's always a history there. There's always a depth there as to why we feel this sometimes divorce between our internal and external selves. But this season is really going to be helpful for a lot of us, just assessing that, where we feel a little bit like we're going through the motions externally while internally we're feeling something different, or where we're maybe externally presenting a certain version of ourselves, but internally there's something completely else going on. And just exploring how we want to bring these two back together. How do we want there to be a synthesis? And once again, we do that through the heart, through feeling deeply and being present through this electromagnetic power center right here in our chest and noticing where that is leading us. It's going to be a very intuitive season for noticing where we're like physically getting pulled, like magnetized to certain things. And part of that process is going to be getting honest with how we're feeling when it comes to the balance and the synthesis of our internal and external selves. And that leads me right into the next theme, which is bringing your actual self along on your journeys and into your planning and visioning. This is such a creative time of year. Like, I almost always get some of my best creative ideas this time of year. I just feel the crackling in the air. That's maybe me personally, but I just love this point in the year where it's like this beautiful summer energy, but then autumn's just around the corner and I can just feel it all. And a lot of plans and ideas are stirring during Leo season. It's important that while we're letting those dreams and plans percolate, that we really bring ourselves. Not the kind of aspirational self that's over there in the distance that we're always running toward, but we never quite reach. Not the self that we think we're gonna magically become like tomorrow. Not the self that we are trying to force ourselves into, but who we are right now. And yes, we will keep changing. We will develop new skills. We will be able to adapt and change as we move through plans in life and learn. But so often it feels like, we're taught to think about manifesting and making things and creating things and planning in a way that kind of deletes really important parts of ourselves, whether that be like where you are with your health right now or your energy. Like, I know for me, I'm going through a really deep season of accepting, my nervous system and the way I experience the world and my really deep sensitivity, that I can't try and delete that in the plans that I'm making. So it's a really great time to be nice to yourself. Honestly, that's all it comes down to. And include yourself in your plans. Include who you are in the meetings you're planning and the new projects you're planning. It sounds so simple, and yet it's really profound. As far as astrology goes, this Leo season has a lot of gentle energy to it. There's a bit of an introspective understanding of ourselves, but also that really fomenting a lot of new movement simultaneously. So we're kind of going to be going back and forth between looking deeply inside, feeling deeply inside, and also feeling like we're free to make movement. So it's going to be a really nice back and forth flow going on there. Leo season starts on July 22nd as the sun moves in, and pretty early on in Leo season, July 26th, we have Chiron stationing retrograde for the next 4 or so months. Chiron stations retrograde every year. And we've been working with Chiron in Aries for many years at this point. The last 6 years, really, we've been working with it. And the big question during these retrogrades is, when do you feel like you need to perform in order to be valid? Aries energy and Chiron energy really reflects on how we think we have to show up to the world, how we have to force ourselves and move through it, and reflecting on what that has really meant for us in our lives, and to kind of reclaim a little bit of the empowerment of realizing we don't always have to be in performance mode. It's quite a profound transit. We'll talk about that again in coming weeks. Let me know if you want me to do a Chiron retrograde video. I'd be happy to talk a lot more deeply about Chiron. On August 4th, Venus moves out of Leo. So the first half of Leo season, we're going to be working with Venus in Leo, and all of that playful, loving, dynamic, curious energy, and just playing around with ideas, allowing ourselves to express ourselves. And then as Venus moves into Virgo, there's this deep tending to ourselves, tending to our inner lantern, tending into our deep wisdom, tending to our spirits. There is a devotional element to Virgo that I always love working with because it normally means that I am really taking good care of myself. I'm respecting myself. I'm nourishing myself. I'm listening to myself. I'm respecting my boundaries, and I'm thinking about how that helps me continue to show up. So we're going to be starting to work with some deeper Venus in Virgo themes as August moves through. At the same time, August 4th is a very busy day. We got Venus moving into Virgo. We also have Mercury retrograde beginning August 4th into the 5th. It's stationing retrograde in Virgo, but it will be moving back to Leo on August 14th. And then Mercury retrograde will end on August 28th, I believe. So we're working with Mercury retrograde this Leo season and a little bit into Virgo season. This Mercury retrograde is going to have a lot of themes that involve self-belief, confidence, the way we think about ourselves in our own internal worlds, our self-reputation. You know, how do we think about ourselves and talk about ourselves when we're sitting alone at home? Going to bed, waking up in the morning, you know, what is coming up there? And getting curious about that. Reassessing our goals and what it means to have like this outward facing self. This Leo season in general and Virgo season, there's going to be a lot of themes around our goals and what we think we need to be doing and how we're making goals, and are those goals reflective of who we really are. So this Mercury retrograde is quite helpful for just taking a moment to be with ourselves. You all know I love a good Mercury retrograde to just connect with myself. August 4th into the 5th, we also have the new moon in Leo. And this is a very harmonious new moon. And I love a good new moon in Leo because the dreaming and the hope and the buoyancy is just so present. This one's trining Mars and Jupiter and Gemini. So we're really in this like idea moving energetic during this new moon. A lot of us are just going to be having new ideas just flowing through, new energy, just getting glimpses of our future selves, getting glimpses of what's really wanting to come in. There's a big excitement to this energy. And then we also have the full moon on August 19th in Aquarius. And I always love the Aquarius full moon as well. I think like every year that is the full moon that just like blows my mind. I always have some really big breakthroughs during the full moon in Aquarius. This full moon is squaring Uranus exactly over in Taurus. So there's illumination here. Squares are so helpful for clarifying what it is we're actually going after, why it matters, what we're into. It's also like one of those full moons where it's like, the path that's calling you means like it cannot look the same as it has been looking for the last few years. Like elements are going to have to change. And, you know, for some of us that can be a little intimidating. You know, it's like, I like to know where I'm at. I want to have my map of what I'm doing. But this full moon is going to be acknowledging like, okay, you're ready to make these shifts. Things are going to have to look different. You're going to have to get relaxed with the discomfort of change. So it's a pretty powerful full moon right there near the end of Leo season. And then the sun moves into Virgo on the 22nd. So it's quite a beautiful Leo season. I really love the energies we're working here, but there's so much compassion in the transits in Leo season this year. Like, I think that's probably the strongest theme when I'm looking at the astrology is like this deep self-compassion and kindness, radical self-kindness that allows us to really reassess how we're changing, what our goals are, how we're treating ourselves, what we expect of ourselves, all of it. Really, really powerful time. I am shuffling. We're going to be playing with our cat tarot today, which just seemed fitting for Leo season. You know, you got to get the cat tarot out for Leo season. Like what are we doing otherwise if we're not doing that? This deck makes me smile. It just brings a smile to my face. It doesn't even matter what's coming out. And I know a lot of you also have this deck and it also brings you a lot of joy. So this is where we're going with it today. King of Cups. I love it. I love it. This is actually so fitting for Leo season, even though that's a very watery card, because King of Cups sits with his emotions and knows that by sitting with those emotions and allowing them to be fully felt, there is liberation, there is courage, there is true leadership. And that is a really important lesson for this Leo season. 8 of Cups. Okay, something just flew in my eye there. Really watery wisdom wanting to come through. Let's pull one more card and then we'll talk through this a little bit. And the Hierophant. Really interesting. Very, very subtle cards in a way. There is this like quiet reflection going on with all 3 of these images. Like I already mentioned, King of Cups is all about sitting with self-compassion and sitting with our emotions, knowing that those emotions need to move through if we are to really be present in our lives. So it's a reminder, like, take some time. I know we always think about like the water sign seasons is the time when we feel our biggest emotions, but Leo is actually a very important place to feel emotions because once again, our heart is this conduit of deep emotion and it helps us to transmute energy into moving energy again. And so there's this kind of translation going on between our emotional truth, moving it through the heart, and that becoming an electrical current that can move through the world into change and shift and artistry and all of that good stuff. So don't shy away from that. If you've been kind of putting it off or not wanting to feel something deeply, the King of Cups is speaking to that. And that's true with the 8 of Cups as well, because you know, in this deck, we have a very whimsical cat playing with the faucet here, the 8 of Cups is really about when we are ready to walk away from a party that might still be going on. And we're allowing ourselves to understand that it's okay to leave, to quit, to change tracks, to turn our backs on things that aren't working for us anymore. And, you know, there's a really good book, and I've mentioned it here before. It's called Quit by Annie Duke. I believe that's her name. It's just called Quit. And I think some of you have probably read it. It's really good because it's about how we have a bias against letting things go, like closing out tabs in our lives, because it feels like we haven't done the thing. We need to have the accomplishment. And the 8 of Cups is just kind of a reflection on what we think we have to keep doing, what we think we're going to be missing out on if we don't keep forcing ourselves. And this is specifically things that are not feeling connective anymore. It's not just like everything. Oh, you just have to leave everything. It's the things that do not feel quite right anymore. There's a lot of us are just really going to be reassessing. I think just knowing you're not alone on that you might be like realizing you just can't keep up with that same job or project or situation anymore. And it's really scary to admit it and to feel the feelings around it. It's all good. A lot of times we'll feel shame or guilt because we are experiencing these emotions. But I think just knowing that we're all going to be working with those themes a little bit takes some of that stigma out of it. And then we have the Hierophant. I'm particularly fond of this Hierophant card actually because I think it speaks to a lot more of the esoteric magical quality of this card. The Hierophant is connected to the High Priestess. These are both elements and energies that sit at the doorway between the unseen and the seen worlds. And in this case, we have a cat with one seeing eye and one eye that's seeing on the other side and seeing in a different way. And it's a reminder here too that like this is a really powerful time of sight beyond the veil. And I often find that like my psychic energetic feelings during Leo season are very potent. So just taking time to listen because you're going to be getting strong, very strong, clear messages this Leo season. It's a highly, highly intuitive Leo season. And just seeing these 3 cards here is reflecting that back to me, that this is just one of those Leo seasons where the deep knowing is just going to be bone deep and really, really powerful. I am going to be walking us through week by week over on my Patreon. I do a weekly reading. We really talk through what the collective energies are, how to work with them. I offer up some journaling prompts. It's a really great resource if you're just wanting a cozy place to land during this Leo season. We are also doing every week a little wild dreaming practice that's really approachable and loving and helps get us back in touch with our wild, free-spirited dreamer. You can catch up on all the sessions we have done so far, and we're going to continue that journey all the way through August. So join me on Patreon. Truly, it is so affordable. There's no big commitment. You can sign up for a month or two and leave when you want. We also have so many more beautiful things coming, including we're going to be working with the minor arcana of tarot this autumn together, and I'm really, really excited to go on that mystical journey with you and build into the storytelling there. So highly recommend checking that out. Also, like this conversation, subscribe, hang out here. We have so many more good conversations coming up. Let me know if you want a Chiron video. I still plan on making a Saturn video. There's so many other topics we could be talking about here. So keep your eyes out. I'm also going to be doing a Mercury retrograde check-in for this Mercury retrograde. So I hope to see you back here very soon for that. Have a beautiful Leo season. I will talk to you so soon.